Social practice is a tool in the artist palette. It's a creative technique for artists who work beyond the studio or outside a studio environment in order to explore, instigate, partner, or build the social phenomena. For me, social practice is necessarily experimental and collaborative. It spans community-specific efforts, artist-initiated projects, issue-based events, municipal public art, and art in public places.
Wow.
See? I see it.
That's pretty extensive. Could you give me an example or two that would help us understand the scope that you're describing?
Well, thank you for saying two, because my name is Helen Lessick. I am an artist and also a public art activist and consultant. So a project that I've done recently that really speaks to social practice is Soil Sample Kenya. I've always been interested in soil and the environment. I've created works about soil, artist books, and site-specific classes. What I was able to do was I received a grant to do some research in Nairobi, Kenya, with a colleague who was working with the UN Environmental Program. Once I knew I was going to, and it was my first trip to Africa, I knew I was going to a place of environmental degradation. I was working very near Nairobi. I was able to partner with Kunkei Design Initiative, which is an architecture and urban planning community. They are a nonprofit that works to build productive civic space in low-income and underserved communities. So I worked with them to develop a series of signs exploring soil in the Kibera slum. KDI was building kiosks, where ablution stations where people could wash, go to the bathroom, really take care of their basic needs that the government and the community didn't have. But they also grew vegetables there, and there was a lot of trade that's based in that area that was built on bad soil practices. I was able to use a grant to do research and then hire sign painters in Kenya who were able to then take my designs. We collaborated on these signs. I wanted to use the vernacular in Nairobi, so local Kenyan sign painters. Our images were they're advertisements for soil, and they read, "Good soil, smart children. Good soil, healthy community," both in Swahili and in English. And they added color and decoration to the vegetable and craft kiosks that the women were using. And the piece is up now. It was a 3-month project in 2 different sites, 2 different visits. And then I was able to go back and enhance soil. I'd say part of that project then led to the painters creating their own business and using the innovation that I as an American artist brought. And for me, I began working with this international collective on other projects, both in Haiti and here in Southern California. So it's a practice that grows and blooms. The second project I'd like to talk about is something that I'm doing as a consultant with the city of Inglewood, California. Inglewood has a program where they have private development. They're encouraging private development to put art in public places. And many places, you might call it plop art, or it's artwork integrated into municipal sites. What Inglewood was trying to do is encourage developers to enhance community engagement by putting artwork in the front spaces of their building in the city. Most facilities didn't want to do that, so they contributed to a fund. I'm helping the city spend that fund through a project called IGAP, Inglewood Growing Art Projects. We're just announcing it now. Artists are asked to develop a project that will provide a civic benefit to the city. And there are 3 different levels of grant, $10,000 to $25,000. The works don't have to be permanent. They don't have to be, you don't have to be an Inglewood resident, but you have to define a civic benefit. And I think that's a way that agencies can use the the effort and the goodwill of the social practice still pay artists and make a difference in their community.
Thank you.
Mhm.
How do you think this field might evolve?
Well, I think evolution ties into the challenges and the opportunities. I think the field will stay kind of marginalized unless there is more critical attention, and that is not just writing about how interesting these projects are, but what makes a good project and what makes a bad project. I think that kind of critical assessment and honest interaction, honest assessment is like, but this was a lousy project. These were the goals and it really didn't happen. I think that's a danger, that this can stay within a small community of cool people who are in shows. On the other side, I think that the practice can evolve through greater acceptance in both academia, in mainstreaming in municipal and museum programs, and making projects and efforts that are continuous. One thing I found in Kenya is the second time I went back, I had a better reception than the first. They were glad that I was still interested. It wasn't tourism. And this, I'm working on a project in Coachella, California, a very poor neighborhood. The same thing. You go back 2 or 3 times, they realize you're committed. And I think that as we work, and artists can find funding to support not only their projects, but have income and insurance, that I think will really define this will help the program evolve, help the effort evolve. But social practice, I think, is here to stay. I would posit, and this is my academic hat on, that galleries started as part of the social practice. And that was back in the Duchampian era, the Salon des Refugiés. Social practices, what are artists doing? And even the galleries in the 40s and 50s and 60s were showing experimental works that no one dared buy. This is just the next phase, and I think we're just part of a growing intellectual engagement of working outside studio.